Let's talk about good news. You talked about Trump's big loss in federal court in California. Now, Posse Comitatus is my favorite rap group. When we were in the East Coast, West Coast rap wars, right?
Yeah.
They were my dudes.
Of course.
Yeah. Okay, but talk about that, because that's we got to celebrate the wins, right?
Well, not only do we celebrate the wins, because Donald Trump lost in spectacular fashion in California when a federal court ruled that when he militarized the streets of Los Angeles, it violates that old federal law, the Posse Comitatus Act, that says you can't use the military to enforce civilian law. But he did, and a federal court called him out on it. And guess what? Immediately after that verdict or that judgment came down, the Attorney General for the District of Columbia sued Donald Trump for the exact same thing, doing the same thing in D.C.
Yep.
So, listen, Donald Trump is losing, in just really record fashion. And I think this is a sign of him getting weaker, not stronger, getting more desperate, not more confident. So let's hope this trend continues.
Yeah. Well, the problem, you probably saw the reporting of, lower court judges speaking out about Supreme Court justices. They don't have our back, that, obviously they're being targeted more and more because of the rhetoric. He's dividing literally everybody, even the judiciary, right? Just talking about how, as we always say, God knows what's going to happen at the Supreme Court.
And Chief Justice John Roberts' silence on this issue is deafening. He can't even stand up for the federal judiciary, which he sits atop, right? And say, maybe when they are deciding cases based on the facts and the law without fear or favor, and they're getting death threats, they're getting swatted, and they're getting doxxed, we should take a stand on that. And yet Chief Justice Roberts grows weaker by the day. But I am glad that I think it was a dozen federal court judges spoke for that piece. And they said, listen, when we render a thoughtful opinion, 100 pages or more, analyzing the facts and the law, and the Supreme Court in a sentence says, nah, we don't think so, reversed, we don't have any guidance. We have no idea what your rationale is or what you believe we did wrong as trial court judges. And, Roberts better get his act together, because it feels like the federal bench under him is willing to speak out and continue to do the hard work of justice, even if he isn't.
Correct. And another one, a federal judge blocked the Trump administration from freezing federal grants and funding to Harvard on Wednesday. While doing so, cited Trump's own words to undercut a key argument by government lawyers. U.S. District Judge Allison Burroughs accused the administration of using allegations of anti-Semitism against Harvard as a smokescreen for a targeted, ideologically motivated assault on this country's premier universities. In a ruling, she said, while fighting anti-Semitism is a noble aim, the administration's targeting of Harvard has been driven by, quote, First Amendment retaliation. To underscore the point, she pointed to several statements by Trump and administration officials, which is what you always say. This is all the stuff that Pam Bondi and whoever else says about, Albrego Garcia. It's just things you say, again, outside the course, a court of law, right, can get used against you.
Trump is suffering crushing defeats, and the way he is governing, or more accurately, ruling over the American people, I continue to maintain is not sustainable. What DOJ is doing is not sustainable. They're finding fewer and fewer DOJ attorneys to go into court and, support Donald Trump's lawlessness and unconstitutionality, which no attorney should do. They should quit. They should resign before they go in and argue that Donald Trump's unconstitutional executive order is constitutional. Judge, just take my word for it. Well, the judges won't take DOJ's word for it. DOJ is losing legitimacy in the eyes of the court. And, I continue to say this is not sustainable. It's going to implode. I don't know how or when or how much damage he's going to do in the interim, but it's going to implode. Yeah,
let's talk about the latest. Federal appeals court blocked a judge's order requiring Florida and the federal government to shut down and dismantle alligator Alcatraz. So talk to us about this.
Yeah, when I saw the trial court opinion ordering it, I think, dismantled in 60 days, I had a feeling this is the kind of thing that they're not going to let happen. They're going to issue a stay, just like they have. Listen, they issued a stay of Judge Breyer's preliminary injunction out in California when he said, get the heck out of the streets of L.A. I'm enjoining you. I'm preventing you from doing it. And remember, the appeals court, the Ninth Circuit, pretty liberal court, unanimously said, you know what? We're going to put a pause on that while Judge Breyer conducts the entire trial. And he did, and he ruled against Trump. I think you're seeing that replicated in Florida. This is a temporary procedural loss, not necessarily a loss on the merits. So stay tuned for more down in Florida.
All right, let's talk about this mortgage fraud bolt. That's a legal term.
Yeah.
It's mortgage fraud bolt. Bombshell report links Trump cabinet members to the same alleged quote-unquote fraud over which Trump tried to oust Lisa Cook, the Federal Reserve governor. At least 3 members of his cabinet have used the exact same mortgage financing tactic over which they attacked the Federal Reserve governor. It's declaring multiple homes as a primary residence. Experts have stressed that practice is often legal. Lisa Cook herself, Glenn, because again, this seems to be the charge du jour, whether it's to Schiff or her or whatever. First of all, she said it was too late to fire her. She disclosed all this information during her confirmation hearing. Right. She said she listed mortgages on 3 properties on forms submitted to the White House and U.S. Senate for vetting. They've accused her of committing fraud by using the 3 properties as primary residence, when she applied for mortgages. Cook said on a background check form, she listed a property in Michigan as a primary residence, one in Georgia as a second home. On a second questionnaire, she listed both homes as her present residence. Again, I know a bunch of people that this is true for. The Michigan property is her current permanent residence, the third property as both a present residence and a second home and rental property. She said if those are factual contradictions, as the government and the president claim, senators or White House advisors could have inquired if any of that alleged were factual inconsistencies. I mean, this just sounds like a load of horse or bull.
Yeah, and is the irony lost on anybody that Donald Trump, convicted of 34 business fraud crimes, is going to be up in arms about somebody, listing a couple of houses as a primary residence? First of all, welcome to the real witch hunt. Welcome to the real weaponization of government. It is what Donald Trump is doing, claiming that he's fighting anti-Semitism and he's fighting mortgage fraud because that's the scourge of our country, right? This is all nonsense. He's been threatening to prosecute people for 10 years, starting with Hillary Clinton, and he hasn't prosecuted a single one. And there are dozens and dozens that he said he was going to lock up, he was going to prosecute. So listen, if there was mortgage fraud, it should be addressed. However, as you say, these things were disclosed a couple of times over. And what that does, Steph, is if they can find any DOJ lawyers unethical enough to walk into court and try to prosecute mortgage fraud cases against Donald Trump's avowed enemies, they are going to have one heck of a vindictive prosecution claim that will probably result in those cases being dismissed. So, if he starts dragging people into court, it's going to get even worse for him.
It's such BS minutia because I have no, friend that has a place in, condo in Palm Springs that she rents out. I mean, it's still a present residence. Like it's just, it's a kind of minutia thing in getting a mortgage, whether, something's a primary or a present. It's she stays there sometimes, she rents it out sometimes,
This really is a witch hunt. It's vindictive prosecution. It's selective prosecution. But let me say, just like we have people who buy firearms every day by the thousands or tens of thousands, many of whom check box 11 on those firearms purchase forms saying, I don't use drugs, and they do use drugs.
Yes.
They went after Hunter Biden for that. It may be some technical violation that we never prosecute.
By the way, we got to get to that next week. Where's all my Second Amendment peeps on there trying to figure out a way to keep trans people from having firearms? Let's see. You Second Amendment purists. Let's go.
Now they're gun grabbers.
Yeah, for someone that's committed 0.11 whatever percent of any of these mass shootings. Anyway, I love you, Glenn Kirschner. We're late. Bella's mad at me. Love you.
Hey guys, quick update. My new book, Separation of Church and Hate, was supposed to come out in August. Then something happened. The printer made the cover salmon, not deep red, but salmon. Is it peach? It's like a anemic mauve. It looks like a red book cover left in the sun for 3 weeks. Now, don't get me wrong. I love salmon, but on my book cover, it looks like I suddenly wrote a rom-com about brunch. So the very awesome people at Simon & Schuster and Avid Reader Press said, no way, we've got to reprint the cover, and boom, my release date's slated to September 9th, because apparently it takes a few weeks to make a book look less like the menu at Nobu. The book itself hasn't changed. The words are all there. It's still part guidebook, part comedy roast of the fake Christians and politics, tiny bit memoir. We just had to reschedule because nobody wants to pick up a book about fundamentalists that looks like the day drink menu at Applebee's. So here it is, Separation of Church and Hate, a sane person's guide to taking back the Bible from fundamentalists, fascists, and flock-fleecing frauds, out on September 9th. And this time I promise, thou shalt not print thy book cover in salmon. Number 9.